23-9 record, and they were completely spent. That contributed to their demise against Cleveland in the finals as well. So they've learned the error of their ways. And they're like, okay, we accomplished everything we needed to accomplish. We've been to 3 consecutive NBA finals. We got Steve Kerr talking about let the players coach themselves for a night against the Phoenix Suns because they get tired of hearing the same old voice and all of this other stuff. We recognize the fact that they have to sit up there and pull stuff out of their hat because they've been to 3 straight NBA finals, and they've taxed themselves by putting that wear and tear on their body. So what they're saying is, look at Houston in the way that they're built. Look at the superstar that James Harden is. Look at what CP3 brings to the table, because we know that based on what the Clippers do not have any longer. Look at Eric Gordon and Ariza and Anderson and Tucker and all of these boys and the way of Capella, and look at the way that they've been playing. These guys are formidable enough where we need to be ready, not to mention the fact the OKCs or the Portlands, one of them we going to face before we go up against Houston. So we need to be ready, and we might need to rest ourselves.
Right about
I got that.
You're right about that. I believe the Warriors are a more experienced and wiser team now than they were when they won 73 games. A better team in that respect. What I'm saying is their evaluation of the situation could easily lead. And by the way, I'm not even saying that they've conceded the number 1 seed. I'm saying they could be playing as hard as they want. Houston may just be better. They may just have wound up with a better record regardless. Let's not forget, they've lost plenty of games to their top 2 players to injury. 8 to James Harden, 18 to Chris Paul. But they just can't. I mean, they can't help it. It's not that they're trying their hardest to win by as much as possible every game. It's that when they're fully healthy, the Rockets can't help it. They can't stop winning. I mean, they're just that good. So what I'm saying about the Warriors is this older, wiser, more experienced Warriors team who's not trying to expend themselves or spend themselves in the regular season. Well, that could easily wind up, you're right, a Game 7 at Houston. And anything can happen there, Stephen A. A call goes the wrong way, the ball bounces the wrong way.
Hold on. Listen. I want to make sure that I'm not being offensive because I love me some James Harden. He's my league MVP. I love me some CP3. He's the quintessential floor general. He's a future Hall of Famer. Nothing but love for him. But they're the ones that have something to prove, Max. Not Golden State. Golden State been here. Golden State been in Game 7 of an NBA Finals. Golden State has won 2 of the last 3 NBA Finals. Golden State has won a Game 7 in a Western Conference Finals. Golden State overcame a 3-1 deficit in a Western Conference Finals. They did it in such fashion, Kevin Durant said, hell with it, I'm out of OKC, I'm going to come join y'all. So let's understand that they did all of these things. Houston hasn't been in that moment. James Harden hasn't been in the Game 7 of the Western Conference Finals against these boys. CP3 has never been to a conference finals. And by the way, Max, look at the road they got to go through. They might have to go through OKC before they get to Golden State. So when you talk about who's going to step up, they might not even get to the Warriors if we're being real about it. I think they will, but they might not.
Basically, the Warriors, I don't even know if they're conceding. As I said, the Rockets may just be better, and that's why they have the better record. But if the Warriors are conceding by resting, then what they're saying is, yep, the Rockets have something to prove, and they're going to have to prove it against us. But we know that they're so good that they're going to have home court against us.
Yep.
So the Warriors are still the ones who are going to have to win on the road.
I want the record to show.
Okay.
I'm actually rooting for Houston. I'd rather be in Houston than Oakland, and I damn sure would rather be in Houston than OKC or Portland.
Shocking.
So nobody's rooting for Houston more than me.
I wonder why.
I wish them luck.
Jenny had a dream of joining the national bobsled team. She worked out relentlessly and knew that if she just refused to give up, one day her dream would come true and she'd stand triumphantly up on the podium. But when her kids reminded her that she was 52 and she lived in Texas, and maybe she started dreaming this dream a little late in life, she gave up on not giving up. But then she heard how Geico could save her money on car insurance, so she switched and achieved that dream instead.
Sports Center right now. I'm Antonieta Collins. Number 2 seed in the East, Purdue, is in the
Sweet 16 of this year's NCAA tournament, but without their star center Isaac Haas. The senior fractured his elbow Friday in the round of 32 against Butler. However, there is still some hope to see him back on the court. According to the Lafayette Journal and Courier, Purdue's sports medicine program has reached out to a group of engineers on campus to see if they can design an NCAA-approved brace that would allow Haas to play. The Boilermakers face 3 Texas Tech on Friday night in Boston. Meanwhile, Trae Young is taking his game to the NBA. The Oklahoma freshman announced this morning that he is going pro. Young dominated headlines this season by becoming the first player in Division I history to lead the nation in both points and assists. Our Jonathan Givney latest mock draft has Young going at number 8 to the Chicago Bulls. Also of note in the projected top 10, DeAndre Ayton moved ahead of European guard Luka Doncic for the number 1 spot. For more on Trae Young, here's First Take.
Very, very interesting. Trae Young headed to the pros. He could potentially become the 3rd lottery pick at Oklahoma, joining Buddy Hield and Blake Griffin. Max, is leaving for the association the right move for Young?
No, I don't think it is. And I'm not speaking to anyone's financial situation or anyone giving up millions of dollars, guaranteed dollars. I understand that you sometimes have to take that deal, although I would say if you could take out an insurance policy that would pay the equivalent of your rookie contract, which you should be able to do, then, and by the way, you should somehow be able to finance that, right? I mean, if you can't make money as a college player, et cetera, then I would say absolutely stay in school. I don't think he's ready for the pros. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, the culture of the NBA is such that a high draft pick must start his career in the NBA. I don't know why that is. In baseball, you could be the number 1 overall draft pick, and frequently you begin your career in the minor leagues, not the major leagues, where you get to develop. And were that the case, were the culture of the NBA the case, that Trae Young could be drafted up high and still go to the G League and develop there and over a year or 2 and then go to the NBA, I would be for it. But that's not what's going to happen. He's going to be thrown to the wolves. Ask another Oklahoma product, Buddy Hield, how that goes. And Buddy Hield actually had years in college. Trae Young is good and promising, and I believe he would get better with development in college against players more on his own level. A couple of more years. I mean, we've just seen it in this previous draft. Why was Kyle Kuzma so good? You think Kyle Kuzma would have been good if he came out after his freshman year? Not only would the answer have been no, he may have never developed into this player. So I'm not talking about the idea of just passing up financial opportunity. I get it. If there's a way to somehow hedge your bet through an insurance policy or something, and there is, then I would suggest staying in college and developing. Because if you think it's tough to play in the backcourt in college, there's a lot of defensive focus in college. Do you know what it's going to be like in the NBA in a guard-driven league where that's where the defensive attention goes? It's going to be brutal, and I'm afraid that he won't be able to develop into the player that he should become one day, and I think that could be a very good player.
Max, sit back and listen to what I'm about to break down, because this is about to get very, very interesting. I have been on the record, Max, as you well know, talking about how I'm not really sold on Trae Young. I think this kid Sexton out of Alabama could do some things. I love Gary Trent Jr. out of Duke. I think he could do some things along with a couple of other cats. But I can't ignore 27-8. I can't ignore you leading the nation in scoring and assist. And more importantly than that, when Trae Young dropped 48 points on Oklahoma State, but took 39 shots to do it, as annoyed as I was at his selfishness, I was equally impressed by how he modified his game and became more of a better point guard, getting his teammates involved and all of that other stuff. So what I did over the last week or so, I went back and I watched several tapes of Trae Young's games. And I got to tell you something right now. He's taller than I thought he was because he looks so small out on the court. They say he's a legit 6'2". He's taller than I thought he was on the court. I'm looking at his broad shoulders. I've watched him get in the lane and finish shots at the basket. And I love what I'm seeing in terms of his ball handling skills. And the brother can pass, too. And so now I'm saying, all right, what do you do here? Ayton, Bagley and these boys, that's a given. But as it pertains to guards, can I pass on this guy? And you know who I think about when I think about what will happen if you're passing him, I think about Steph Curry. And you know why I think about Steph Curry? It's not just because I see Trae Young pulling up from three, even though against Rhode Island, even though he dropped 28, there was still a couple of ill-advised shots he took right past half court. I don't know what the hell he was thinking. But the bottom line is this. He has range. He can make shots. He can get to the lane and do his thing. But you know why I'm thinking about him? For the New York Knicks. Are you ready for this, Max? If you're the New York Knicks, hire Mark Jackson, like I said. The season ends April 11th. April 12th, Hornacek should be gone. By the end of tax season, April 15th, when your taxes are due, Mark Jackson should be the next head coach for the New York Knicks. And I felt that way before even thinking about Trae Young. But now that I'm thinking about Trae Young, it's even more important that the New York Knicks get Mark Jackson. Because when Steph Curry finally bursted onto the scene, who was his coach? This is before they won the title now. This is when they lost in the first round. They went to the semis one year in 2012, 2013, and 2013, 2014, I believe. They lost in the first round in Game 7 to the Clippers. I was at that game, all right? Steph Curry averaged 24 that season on 40, better than 47% shooting, better than 42% shooting from three-point range. It was his coming out season where he put the world on notice. He had arrived. And that was obviously the season before Steve Kerr got the job. Well, who was his coach? Who was the guy that spent 3 years developing Steph Curry before Steve Kerr came on the scene? That would happen to be Mark Jackson. And so I look at Trae Young, and I think about something along those lines. You're the Knicks, you hire Mark Jackson, and then after that, you draft Trae Young, and you go from there.
Well, actually, Steph Curry had a coach before Mark Jackson for 3 years because he stayed in college for 3 years. Steph Curry didn't come out till after his junior season. That's why he's Steph Curry. Now, he may have developed into Steph Curry anyway, but we can't be sure of that. And Steph Curry was phenomenal right away. He was totally excellent, but he got better. The development was important. I understand, Stephen A., the idea that there are millions of dollars on the table. Don't be a fool. Grab the money. I'm just saying, if there's a way to hedge against that, if there's an insurance policy available that could pay multiple millions in the event of an injury, and you would think that would be possible to work that out somehow, that's what I would advise. If the NBA and the G League were serious about developing even high draft picks, and it wasn't like, well, we picked him 7th overall, so he's got to start in New York if he's with the Knicks, for example, then I would agree with him coming out. But we all know that's not the way it works. He is going to be drafted up high. He will go to a market that wants to play him a lot, and he will be thrown to the wolves. And I'm not even saying he can't succeed. I'll be rooting for him. I'm just saying the odds that he does succeed will be higher if he develops in college more.
He'll be playing with house money, especially if he goes to the New York Knicks, because they drafted this dude, Frank Ntilikina, out of France. Don't get me started with that. I mean, you can't go nowhere but up. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, he would be playing. Please, stop it. Stop it. Don't sit up there and ruin my morning like this. Don't you dare say that. He all right. He plays solid defense, and he's got a long wingspan. What do you want, a cookie? There's nothing. There's no reason that Ntilikina should have been a number 8 overall pick. That's just a fact, okay? So now we look at Trae Young. Can he put the ball in the hole? Is the NBA court? It's open court. This is basketball. It ain't rocket science, bro. If you got it, you got it. And by the way, if you stayed in college, you'd be playing for Lon Kruger. I respect Lon Kruger. He's coached in the NBA. He knows a little something. But the level of development, I'm just not so sure. You need to stay there.
Buddy Hield,
go pro. I got no problems with it.
Buddy Hield came out after 4 years. Buddy Hield came out after 4 years, and he's not that great as a pro, meaning that was his potential. Like, he was never going to be a great pro. Steph Curry came out after 3 years. He became a great pro. The point is, no matter what you would have been, you'd have been better if you had developed more before you got to the league.
We got to agree to disagree, guys.
Likely.
We got to keep it moving. ESPN has Trae Young ranked as the 9th best prospect in this year's draft and the 3rd best point guard.